back to our 15th episode of the Launch Your Farm Show, where I interview Dustin Pritchard with Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team at EXP Realty. Dustin shares how he took what he learned from running his own brokerage and how he applied it to starting a digital farm to grow his team and his real estate business. In this episode, Dustin and I talk about how to build the right brand for the right audience to get your message in front of the right people. Dustin shares why finding your target audience can be the biggest thing you can do to grow your business and how you implement that into your own business. We also talk about what you should be doing on social media to get your message in front of the right people. Dustin also shares a super easy way to increase your net profits every year with a super simple trick. And we talk about how to build your systems and marketing message to enhance your skills and strengths so that you can stay in love with this business and thrive. Plus, we share a ton of other ideas that you can use to grow your farm online. So be sure to check out this episode, like and subscribe, and enjoy the episode with Dustin. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Launch Your Farm Show. Today, we've got a great guest for you. It's Dustin Pritchard from the Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team. So Dustin, take a second, tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your business.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Ryan. It's a great pleasure. Name's Dustin Pritchard again, Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team. Been in the industry for about 10 years now, and one of the reasons why I got into real estate is because I've run sales teams for the last 20 years. Real estate is one of my hobbies. I was fixing and flipping houses, and I also wanted to rebuild a sales team, but around a high-ticket item. So I got into real estate specifically to build a real business around my license so that I can achieve the freedom that we all desire to achieve in our business.
Awesome. Yeah, and a lot of people get into the business. I've talked to different people and have kind of different avenues and why they got into it and what brought them to it. What was it that drew you to real estate specifically?
Well, we were in the middle of a flip. I was flipping a house, and at the time, everything was under construction, so I was tucked away in the basement with my computer. And my wife, she's like, "You spend so much time on Realtor.ca, you better get your license to be able to get paid for spending all that time on Realtor.ca." So I was like, "Okay, that totally makes sense," because we're fixing and flipping houses, and quite frankly, I was tired of paying somebody else a commission when I ended up doing half the work anyway. So I got my license. That's kind of where it started.
So you didn't have a good agent. So we'll start with that then, because obviously if you had a good agent, they'd be doing the work for you.
Yeah, well, no, it's good agents, just not the level of hustle that I was looking for, right? Because when you're fixing and flipping houses, you make all your money when you buy, and everything else is pretty much a fixed cost. But it's when you're trying to exit that property and you're trying to execute on that sale, it's critical to get it done fairly quickly so that your operational overhead and your running costs don't eat you alive and take all your profits away. So my big thing was really just about getting the home sold within a reasonable amount of time and pursuing every single opportunity, every lead that comes in, and making a deal work, right? So I didn't have I had a good experience. I just didn't have great experience, and it certainly wasn't as profitable as it could have been.
Okay. So let's talk about, you kind of shifted gears. You started as a single agent, I'm assuming, and then you started your own company. So let's talk about that.
I did. Yeah, no, I was a single agent for about a year, joined a boutique brand. The guy had billboards all over the city. So I'm like, well, the guy knows what he's talking about. So I joined him. And it turns out that I learned more about what not to do than what to do. It just what it is. And so for the first year, I was just grinding out sales, but I knew that I wanted to build a business because that's who I am. Like building an operation is something that I've always done. I'm an entrepreneur at heart and a serial entrepreneur, as a matter of fact. So I was a year in the business, decided to partner up with a gentleman from the office, and at that point in time, we started our own company, and we grew it from scratch, from absolute nothing, no brand or anything like that. We grew it to $300 million in sales, actually, as my last year as CEO. That was where we got to. We got to $300 million in gross sales with 63 agents. Yeah.
Great. So you transitioned out. We won't get into the details of it, but you restarted a new business, kind of restarted a new brand. Let's talk about that, because I think that's really what's important about, we're going to be talking about farming and what that looks like for you guys.
Well, it certainly is applicable. That's for sure. Because you're right. It's so. Talk about the transition, business partnerships, they tend to fall apart and they tend to evolve, right? And that's exactly what happened. So we evolved into different directions. And so it's, I was going to sell my shares, and you take the company. I'm going to restart my team in a different environment, and really take advantage of big disruptions that are happening in the marketplace right now and things like that. So started January 1st of this year from zero. So when I don't know if some of you watching right now, if you know this, but if you're in a partnership and you're in a corporation, you usually have non-solicit, non-competes, and all kinds of stuff. So I effectively needed to get released from all of that. But that also meant that I started from zero. I didn't have a list. I didn't have a name, no brand. I didn't have agents. I certainly didn't have signs on the lawn. And one of the things that was actually shocking was that because I was CEO of the company, I was behind the scenes for probably 5 or 6 years. So I wasn't actually in the forefront. The consumer didn't know who I was anymore. So I literally started from nothing, like a brand
Double
new
scratch.
from a double scratch. It was just like nothing. It was just me and my knowledge, right, and my enthusiasm and my energy. So went to work January 1st, and now, yeah, we're rocking and rolling. The team is doing fantastic. We've got there's 7 guys on the team. We've got 3 more onboarding this week. We're hitting around a 10 to 12 deal a month average right now. We're projecting to hit probably close to 300 deals next year, based on our momentum that we're hitting right now. So,
yes. So a lot of that, which we've talked about, is for you, has been farming and focusing on your specific neighborhood. I want to kind of delve into that, but before we do, I want to talk about why it's important for people to understand that farming doesn't have to be this long-term thing. And I talk about it all the time, where agents have heard in the past that it takes 6 to 18 months before you start getting results. And when you do it right and you do it well, it's actually one of the quickest and the best ways to start getting business. And obviously you're living proof of that. In January, you started really applying your strategies and putting them into your business, and you're seeing the results of it. So what did it look like for you guys when you hit the ground running? What kind of things did you start with?
Well, okay, just to give you kind of an example, basically I've been able to rebuild an entire team. It's a $250,000 a year profitable team in the space of 6 months. And I did it all with, well, not all, but most was actually with farming, to be honest with you. So one of the first things that I did was I identified, let me just give you from the perspective of a team leader, right? Because that's kind of where I come from.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that I was able to build a business that I didn't get trapped in again. I didn't want to build myself a job that I felt like I was in jail. So my lifestyle that I wanted, the business that I wanted to deliver that lifestyle, had to be, proactively thinking about that in advance before I actually built any of the infrastructure. Because if you don't do it that way, if you build it, oh, I've got a great idea, and then you build a business, then you end up trapped by your business because it's not built with purpose, right? So the first thing was to understand where I wanted to end up. And this is relevant to farming, because how you actually go about doing it and executing on your plan is going to determine where you want to end up. So the second thing that I did was I needed to solve problems. And because I'm a team leader, my clients are not the buyers and sellers so much as my clients are the realtors that service those buyers and sellers. So we need to figure out what problems the realtors had today that I could solve as a team leader, so that I can take some of the load off their shoulders and help them thrive and grow inside of the business. So those are the 2 first steps. But then I needed to figure out, okay, so we've got the brand, we've got the message, we've got the operational infrastructure, we know what we want to do, we know where we want to end up. Yeah. I had to determine what was the fastest way to go as far as getting our message out there, AKA, what was I going to farm? How was I going to farm? How was I going to get my message out there on a consistent basis to get myself a maximum result with the lowest return on, or the highest return on time for the lowest, amount of money going into the business? And for me, it was social media, 100%. My very first step was social media. A lot of realtors, because I talked about this to another realtor. He's like, "Oh, that's not farming." I'm like, "Yes, it is." He's like, "It's farming. That's social media." I'm like, "It's farming. 100% it's farming." Right? Anytime that you get a group of people together, they're a farm, right? Yeah. They're congregating, right? So anytime you get people together, right? You know this, and you preach this. You preach it right now. You're like the guru of farming, and so a farm is just a group of people. So I needed to figure out how to reach the biggest group of people of my target market that I possibly could. And for me, that was both the consumer and agents. So social media was the easiest way to go about doing that.
Yeah, I think going back to what you started with is the kind of pre-planning and thinking ahead is critical. And I find that many agents want to skip ahead, and it's great. They got high D personalities and they want to get things done The problem is they skip over that plan, and they skip over some of those important steps that are really critical to going, okay, where do I want to end up, and not just what I need to do now. And that's why, in my opinion, planning out the right farm, picking the right farm, choosing the right audience, choosing your messaging up front is more important than just going out and getting it done. You need to do both, but planning is critical.
Got to take action, absolutely. But if you're going to maximize the results, you can't throw crap against the wall and see what sticks. Yeah. And that is a strategy, and it is effective. When it does work, you're going to churn out some sales. Yeah. But you will end up arbitrarily in some kind of destination that may not be to your design or your liking. And the last thing that you want to be, like, this business is tough enough for you to hate your job. Yeah. Right? So you might as well love what you do. Yeah. That includes the price point you're dealing with, the neighborhoods you're dealing with, the demographics you're dealing with, right? The cultures you're dealing with, the niches you're dealing with. Those are all farms, right? Yeah. So you really need to design your business the way you want to live your life.
Yeah. And having the right message is critical for that. And I'm going to delve into that with the social media, because I've said it many times with agents that it's the same cost to get a crappy message in front of someone as the right message. The same cost to send a crappy postcard as the one with the right message on it. The same time and energy to door knock with the right approach is the same time and energy it is with the wrong approach. And a lot of agents get hung up on, if I just do stuff, then it's good. And it's like, yes, there's something to be said about just getting into motion, but having the right message, the right approach, the right audience is critical. So for you, you said you took that planning. What did it look like for you from the consumer side? And then let's talk about the agent side as well. Like when you were kind of trying to find that ideal.
Well, it's kind of both, right? Okay. So one of the because the message you're putting out to the consumer is also going to attract the kinds of agents that are going to resonate with that message going to the consumer, right? So it's all full circle. Yeah. The one thing that I did want to do is I wanted to maximize my return on time for myself and for me. So right now, the average price point in my primary operating territory is about $460,000, give or take. That's the average. Yeah. My average is $620,000. And it's not bragging. I'm just saying that if you're going to sell a home, it's the same amount of time, effort, and money invested into selling a home, primarily, mostly, for $200,000 compared to $600,000, right? But one pays you 3 times as much. So obviously I want to get the highest return on time. So I investigated neighborhoods and niches in my area that had really, really high turnover, but also at a very, very high price. So I focused on those neighborhoods. I focused my advertising, marketing messages and things like that towards that demographic. And now the results are starting. And I'm only like, it's September, end of September now, and I started January 1st. So that gives you kind of a perspective of how fast you can move. That's one of the reasons why I chose social media as well. The lead factor alone, I didn't have to wait for postcards to sit there. I didn't have to wait for stickers to sit there and stuff like that, so I could get the message out there repeatedly. But really, it was researching who was going to and what was going to give me the best return on my investment of time and money into my team, and who was also what kind of demographic was going to attract the realtors that I really wanted to do business with.
Great. Yeah. So what did that look like for you when you got started then? Because I find a lot of agents struggle with that initial launch. Sometimes going backwards, agents get hung up in spending too much time researching, too much time in that analysis paralysis. When you decided to pull the trigger, what was those first steps for you?
It was a 2-pronged approach. So from a team perspective, but you can translate this into an agent perspective, even if you're a brand new agent. One was brand, and the other was leads. Simple, right? So I wanted to make sure my branding was out there, and I wanted to make sure that I was generating enough leads for myself and my team. Both of those are 2 separate messages that went out there. One was a high brand message, like a DPRET brand, Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team brand, like sexy, polished, and it's obvious that they're a real estate team. And then the other one was a low brand, which is basically just delivering value to my consumer the way they wanted to receive it in order for me to generate enough leads to be able to feed my team. But both of those things fit together. So the brand that I chose, it's gold and white, and it's got a damask background. It's a high-end kind of a brand look and feel to it, specifically because I wanted to serve people that were, I wouldn't call it not above average demographic, but certainly above average price point. Right. I wanted people in a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 home say, you know what, that sign looks good out there. You know what I mean? because that's really going to resonate with the rest of the neighborhood, especially when you put that sold on top. And then the leads that I was generating, I was specifically looking for, I was generating leads specifically for the people that I wanted to serve.
Yeah.
So it was a two-pronged approach. One was brand and one was low brand. But I hit the market as hard as I possibly could right out of the gate. Actually, I had to wait until the end of the pandemic. But as soon as that lifted and we lifted our restrictions, we were able to go out there and go crazy with it. So it was a two-pronged approach, brand and low brand approach.
And one of the things I talk about all the time is you can double your business by only getting 10% better. And a lot of people think that if they want to hit those maximum goals, they got to do twice the business. And I say there's 7 steps that you can just get better at 10% at: how many people you talk to, how many appointments you go to, how many leads you convert, how many leads you get, how many appointments you go on, the price point you charge, the commission you charge, and I forget what the last one is. And it's like, if you only get 10% in each one of those because of the compound effect, you can literally double your business. And for you, one of those is, you said you went to a higher price point, which makes a huge difference because you can get more money for less time, and you specifically were targeting that audience and you knew what you wanted, and it's translating to more money. Pretty
much. There was also another segment of our brand too that is not, in your face to the consumer, but it kind of is. It's value. Yeah. It was delivery of value. It was, I like to go the opposite direction of the crowd, because it's typically easier for you to carve out market share when you're doing that. When everybody is following like sheep following the leader, going in one direction, I usually try to go upstream a little bit. Yep. And it's worked for me extremely well in the past. So in my market in the area, everybody was 6 points, everybody was 6%, and charging that religiously. And then it slowly went, down to 3.5. And I'm not talking averages, and I'm not talking about recommendations. I'm not talking about this is what everybody does or anything like that. I'm just saying that I was seeing lots of high price point commission structures, and they were going lower and lower and lower. Mm-hmm. Lower. So people were cutting their fees, and in turn they were also cutting their value, or they were working for free, which made it unfun for them. And they certainly it just didn't, they weren't incentivized to deliver a really fantastic experience to the clients, right? So I went in the opposite direction. So yes, we will do listings for cheap. Okay, so yes, we can. If you're frugal, no problem. We got a package. But at the end of the day, we were starting to go the opposite direction. So not only were we going up to the higher price point, we were also looking for ways that we can offer more value to the consumer that would justify us charging more and charging what we're worth. Now, this is, again, a free exchange of value. This isn't about overcharging or anything like that. So, for example, we'll have a package, I call it a large property package, where we charge an extra point for drone flybys and extra photos and a whole bunch of, we build a website for your property and your listing and all that kind of stuff. So we really go the extra mile for these extra value packages. But what we do is we build a plan with you as the consumer, you as the seller in mind, and we do this together. So instead of saying, okay, I charge 5% because I'm worth it. No, it's not that. It's like, okay, so what is your end result that you want to achieve? How do you want to achieve it? What do you feel comfortable with? This is what marketing costs. We break it all down so that the seller they got eyes wide open. They know exactly what's going on, and they built the plan with you at a team, right? So that's just an example. Okay, I'm just as an example of what we do as a team that elevates ourselves above. Not above, but provides more.
Differentiates you, and
it's a differentiator, But it also is a premium product.
Right.
It's a premium service, and a lot of people in the marketplace, they want that experience. They want to have a premium experience. And here's the hidden benefit of that. We oftentimes get rid of our commission completely just because we're able to get more for people's homes, right? So again, this is all about branding and value and establishing the value that you want to portray, establishing the value that you want to deliver to your consumer, and again, back to message, right? Laser targeting that message to the right consumer with exactly what they want to receive from a real estate team.
And I think too, what you mentioned is having 2 different brands. A lot of agents get hung up on that. I have to have this one brand, and it has to be all things. And it's like, you can build sub brands within it. You can have your discount brand if you want, or your high end, your luxury brand. You could have your farm brand. You could have the neighborhood brand, and they can all work together. They could work separately, and it's okay to have kind of just different messages, especially if you're going after different demographics and sociographics and areas. It's like the luxury homes are not going to resonate with what what's being attracted to first-time buyers and vice versa.
Absolutely, 100%. Right. So like, I agree with you. I just call them campaigns, right?
Yeah.
So you got your brand, like DPRET brand, right? So for people, and to translate what you just said into farming a different kind of client, when I'm looking for realtors, I'll bring brand new baby realtors on board, and I'll help them, I'll coach them and help them launch and get them to their first dollar really, really fast. Actually, I'm really good at helping new realtors get to 6 figures in the first 12 months, 18 months, right?
Yeah.
And that's like take home in your pocket kind of thing. So that's one demographic. But then I also have another demographic that I serve as well, is I'm serving those realtors that have already made their first 100,000 and they're looking for the second 100. Right. So how do you establish that? And it's just different services and different ways to approach that particular client with different levels of value and different, just a different approach. Right. So you would do the same thing as, first time home buyers over here, or luxury over there, or multifamily over there, or a certain neighborhood or a certain ethnic demographic. There's all kinds of different ways to approach it. And like, as a team perspective, I'll have by the end of this week, I'll have 10 guys on my team. Right. So 10 people on my team. Literally 10 different ways to do this business.
Yeah, exactly.
10 niches, 10 different neighborhoods, 10 different farms, all of that, right? So you definitely need to be able to kind of duck and weave with, you need to provide your consumer.
And that's one of the strategies I talk about or one of the techniques I call is strategy stacking, where you are layering in those strategies. And it's when you have one strategy and you have a one trick pony, it's like, you're going to only be able to do that, and you're going to get from that what you can. And when you have different ways of doing the business for different audiences, and this might work better here, this might work better over there. And from a team perspective, the more of those tools you have in your toolbox, the more you're going to be able to reach people, as long as it's focused in the right direction. You don't want to spread yourself too thin where people they have all the different things and it's not working together. And that's, in my opinion, the most critical part, is they start working together.
Well, you need to get a return on time. Right? Like if you're going to start a campaign, you need a return on that time and then the money investment you're putting into it, right? And you can do it fast, especially using technology. The old school farming is a little bit slower, or a lot slower, or costly, or a lot more touches and repetition and things like that. And you got to be strategic about it. But the new kind of farming, the online farming, like, it's genius. You can actually put messages out there and stack the different value that your different approaches or your campaigns. You can stack and you can test it out fast. You can split test your campaigns fast and get data back to be able to make your decisions, to be able to move in the whatever direction you need to move in, right?
So I want to delve into some of those strategies you have done and the online approach that you've taken, because for some people, online is this complete scary world. They have no idea what to do. Some people are doing it. Some people are kind of dip their toes in and they just tread lightly. I always say, if you're going to do online and do it well, you got to jump right in with both feet. You can't dabble online. So for you obviously jumped right in. What were those strategies that you jumped right into? What worked? What didn't work?
Well, let me first speak to the imposter syndrome that you're talking about there. A lot of people going into social media. I had it, dude. I had it. Like my first Facebook Live, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what to say, right? Yeah. And it can be really intimidating. But here's the really cool thing, and it's funny as hell, is at the very beginning when you're first starting with social media, your very first you're afraid that everybody's going to see the stuff you put out there. You're going to make mistakes. They're going to judge you, think about you, and all that kind of stuff. You know what the secret is, though? Is that no one actually sees you. That after everybody's going to see me, and then after a while, you're putting a bunch of content out there, and it's like, no one's seeing me.
Yeah.
So it's jumping with both feet. You really have to hit a cadence with social media, just like farming, just like flyers and things like that. You need to have a cadence of offers going out to your consumers. And your offer is simply a message, whatever your message happens to be to different people. But you just have to be consistently doing it every single day, week, or whatever your cadence happens to be. But yeah, that's sorry. And you asked me a question. I totally got segued.
No worry. That's cool. I was asking, when you got started, what kind of approaches did you take, and then what worked and what didn't work, and what did it look like as you evolved?
As far as the online social media stuff, well, I actually went with what I knew most, and I went with Facebook, because I've been on Facebook for over 10 years now, and it was the first thing that I did in social media. It's also turned itself into a platform that's really, really beautiful to be able to run your business. I actually run most of my team off of Facebook, believe it or not. It's such an easy tool to be able to use. So I just leaned into that, right? So created a couple of pages, branded page, a low brand page that you can run your ads from and things like that for your lead generation. Your branded page to put your branded ads out there, because you need to run ads to be able to build your business. You need, brand recognition, you need advertising and marketing. So it depends on what audience you want to reach and how you want to reach them, and the message you use. But I use a branded page and a low brand page to be able to do that. That's my first strategy. And then I started rolling out the other social media platforms. So I've got LinkedIn and I've got Instagram as well. Not nearly as strong as Facebook, because that's where I started, right? So, whatever you're strong in, and depending on your age group, you're going to be strong in one or the other. And shoot, there's TikTok now and stuff. And I haven't even gone on that damn site. Everybody's doing all these TikTok videos. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm already old school. So I'm using Facebook. I feel ancient now, but my first strategy was just to lean into what I was already good at, what I was familiar with, and then I start building from there.
So one of the things I find that agents struggle with is what type of value do they add? What type of things can they promote? Because I find agents get stuck in I have to promote a listing, I have to promote my face, and that's it. And then they get hung up on, what do I actually do that provides value to the client? Because to me, that is where the biggest opportunity is figuring out what can you provide value to that other agents aren't doing, and not just I'm awesome, I sell homes, buy this home for me. So what kind of value do you add, and how has that worked for you?
Well, we call it infotaining, right? With what we do. So there's a number of different ways that I do it. I run a podcast with my partner, Stacey Prier. I do like challenges and different events like that. Just to give you an example, I'm running a challenge right now called Massive Momentum Challenge, and it helps realtors build a consistent six-figure income in the space of 30 days effort, right? That kind of thing. So I just try to come up with different ways to offer value to my target audience. My primary target audience, again, is realtors, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I did in the book, actually, in the challenge here, let me skip to the resources.
While you're looking, I'm going to give a plug to myself, because I was a guest on your challenge. So I'm doing a workshop. So if anyone wants to check it out,
let's do it. Oh, I can't wait, man. I can't wait to share your workshop too, because that was such valuable content that you shared. Man, you are an expert in this. That's for damn sure. So I actually wrote 133 live stream topic ideas. Awesome. It's in the challenge, right? So you just if you're interested, go to massivemomentumchallenge.com, and you can actually buy the book and you can get all the live stream ideas. But you got everything from, first things first, don't be boring, okay? Don't hey, coming soon, just sold, over asking, looking to buy and sell. You can do that. You obviously want to do that. But the thing that I was always taught with social media is that you want to pepper your offers in with valuable content that's interesting to your consumer, right? So that's a direct sale offer. You only want to do that one out of every 8 posts or 6 posts or something like that. Otherwise, you're going to lose your audience. The only people that are going to like your stuff is other realtors, right? So, and that's true. That's what happens, right? Yeah. So you got everything from top 3 things to get your home ready for the market, how to make the most out of an open house, top 5 favorite local boutiques, local parks, information about schools. You get into seasonal stuff like Halloween and best neighborhoods to go and to get trick or treat, or tons of stuff. Like you interview. One of my favorite ways to do it is actually what you and I are doing literally right now, is co-creating content.
Yeah.
Right? Interviewing for content is one of the most brilliant ways to create content, because now you can just literally have a conversation, right? And you don't have to come up with a whole bunch of things to say. You just need bullet points to guide you through a conversation. So if you're farming a neighborhood, and I know, Ryan, you talk about this, man, but farming a neighborhood, go interview local businesses.
Yeah. Right? I'm a huge promoter of that, because it does 3 things. It gets you in front of the businesses, gets you in front of their audience, and it supports the local community. And when you start putting those together, magic starts happening.
Triple threat, dude. Like that is if that's all you do. Like I know a guy in town, that's all he does. He just interviews businesses in his local area. He's like, hey, we're going to eat at this restaurant today, or we're going over here and try that beer today. And, or I needed my car fixed, so I'm going to go talk to this guy over here. And now he's just promoting those local businesses, but he just gets a lot of mind share and market share, and he's not self-serving, even though it is. The result you're getting from it is you're getting the visibility, and you're also building authority for yourself in the marketplace, but you're really doing something really great for your community, and people like that. love it, right? And personally, I love entrepreneurs, right? So anytime that I can support a fellow entrepreneur is I take it 100%.
I call that selflessly selfish, where you're selflessly helping people for a selfish reason, and they're happy about it. You're happy about it. It's a win-win for everybody. And when you can create that magic between the businesses, it's going to work. I was at a seminar just before COVID hit, and one of the guys was on there, and they're in this small town in the middle of America. And he's like, no one goes there unless you live there. Like, no one, like, there's no reason for people to go there. And they started doing videos, and he just started interviewing local businesses, and they do 400 deals a year. And he said, I think it was like 60-something% of his businesses has come from just that market share. And he's like, we interview businesses. We just highlight what's going on in the community. And he said that traction creates a huge value for people.
100%, because you're an expert and you're seeing it. You're building authority. Right. So like I'm doing this challenge, right? And it's all about building visibility and authority in your marketplace to get your dream customers literally walking through the door. So guys, if you're watching this right now and you haven't done farming before, if you want your dream customer that's already bought, like they've already sold on you as the value provider that you're going to, and they're just like, yep, just take my money. This is sign here, press start. I'm ready to sign contract. When can you list me? If you want that kind of stuff to come walking through your door, you need to build authority in your marketplace. They need to see you and they need to trust you, right? That you know what you're talking about. So that example that you just gave was exactly that. A ton of visibility, a ton of authority, and then you get all that walk-in traffic. It's a brilliant combination.
One of the themes that I've had after doing all these interviews, that is a lot of the people that do public events, public things that are going on, things in their community, it starts with stuff that they like. And if you're a lot of agents have said, if you're doing stuff you don't like, you're not going to do it. You're not going to want to do it. The passion's not going to come out. So they said, just start with something you like. If it's sports, get involved with sports. Think creatively. How can you do sports? If you like businesses, like I like businesses, get involved that way. If you're involved in your kid's school, start with the kid's school, and just start with something that you're already passionate about or already involved in, and use that as kind of your starting point. And you don't have to create this whole giant organization of stuff. It's like, just start with something you like and then roll with it.
Can I take it one step further?
Yeah, please.
It's not just that. Like I was interviewing Chauncey Pham the other day because she's a speaker. She's just like you are in my challenge. She's a guest speaker too. And we were talking about You Inc., You Incorporated, and you are enough. The thing that you love to do, the person that you are, the thing that makes you special, the things that make you special, that's the brand. Right. Yeah. So for example, I got a couple of ladies, they call themselves the Property Sisters, right? And lovely ladies, amazing ladies. And they are both incredibly passionate around animals. Yeah. So what they've done is they've called themselves the Property Sisters because one, they're sisters. Yeah. Two, they love animals. So every single deal that they do, they donate some money to the SPCA. And now all of the animal lovers in the area, they all flock to those ladies, right? Yeah. And that's all you need to do. So if let's say you're into cars, okay? I'm not into cars, but maybe you're into cars, right? And if you get yourself into the car club, you get yourself in front of those people that also drive cars, that also drive the cars that you like, or the Jeep club, or whatever you want to call it. Like it's whatever your specialty is. Yeah. You don't need all of the market share. You just need a good portion of a small piece. And that's niching, right? Yeah. It's the same thing as carving out a neighborhood. You can do the same thing in a micro niche or a congregation of people. Car clubs, there's dogs and cats and animals and things like that. For me, it's teams. Right? Yeah. So my sweet spot is teams and opportunity. Yeah. So I go after agents and I attract agents that want to build a business, want to have a big opportunity, be able to build out an empire, want to make 6 figures and above. And I'm especially looking for the agents that want to make 6 figures passive income. That's what I'm looking for. So that's the kind of message that I put out there. That's the value that I put out there specifically to attract those kinds of people. It's whoever you are, that's your specialty. Yeah. Right? You can lean right into that and you can build out a huge farm around you.
As long as, and I'll take it a step further, is as long as you ask for the business and learn to ask for the business. Because I've seen that mistake happen so many times where people get out, they're involved, and no one knows they're in real estate. No one knows what they do. They're out. It's like, you still got to get the message out there, and you still got to get people to know what you do, and you got to connect that way, because otherwise you're doing some good stuff for the community, but it's like, you still want to sell houses.
That's wonderful, but it's called sell houses. Yeah. You're in the and so unfortunately, I know a lot of people like to call themselves consultants and things like that. And that's great. That's how you want to perceive yourself, and that's how you want to put yourself out there in the community. But if you're not asking for the sale, you ain't making any money.
Yeah. Well, one of my first guests, Beth Sandberg, I loved her script. She talked about, she said people will call and she'll pretend that it's a client, even though it's her daughter or whatever. She's like, sorry, and she just pretend. So that she's like, when she's around people, they hear that she's in real estate. She's like, my kids know that when they call that I'm going to pretend like oh yeah, I got to book that showing for you tonight, whatever. And she's like, and then people ask. So it's like, you got to be creative.
Line at your gas station or whatever. Not gas station because you're not allowed to do that, but the grocery line, right? It's like, yeah, that's perfect. Shit, I've even known people to pick up the phone and pretend that there's a call coming in.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm totally going to be there in a few minutes. I'm just grabbing some groceries and I'll be there for your listing appointment. I can't wait to list your home.
Yeah.
You're going to make so much money.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
So for you online, you've done a bunch of strategies. What has been your biggest hit? And like, what has been, because you said about doing it to leverage your time, what has given you the most amount of time that's been effective for your agents? Does that make sense?
Yes, but it's a hard question to answer because when you're running a team and multiple people, there's many moving parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a real estate business. Any single agent, there's a lot of moving parts, but what worked best? All of them together.
Yeah.
That's what worked best, right? And I can't really say like, okay, my lead gen campaign that worked best, or my branded campaign worked best, or my remarketing campaign. So everybody hit my website. Now I'm chasing their butts around the internet for 6 months.
Yeah,
that campaign's working, but it all works together, right? Yeah. So it's kind of hard. I've got people that are niching out. They're going into certain demographics and ethnic demographics, and I've got people that are hitting certain neighborhoods, and this is all farming, but as a brand, as a team, they all help each other, become more visible and create more authority. So from my perspective as a team leader, it was all of it. But it was all of it together. Think of it this way. Like I always teach my agents, you need a well-rounded campaign. You need a campaign that's online. You need it on social media. You need to have a website for people to land and convert. But you also need a physical presence out in the field. You need a community presence. You need a physical presence in your neighborhood. So it's all of them together that become an unstoppable force, because they'll get your flyer or they'll see your social media posts and then like, oh, I see you everywhere. And that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Because they are everywhere in their daily life and online and offline. They need to see you. And if they see you in 5 or 6 or 7 places, multiple times during the month, you're now top of mind. When they're thinking, they're thinking you. So it's all of it.
Yeah, that's the strategy stacking. That's the whole purpose of it, is to hit them in different ways, to catch as many people in different possibilities, either doubling up so people are seeing it multiple times, or catching people that would have fallen through the cracks that aren't on Facebook. So if you're just doing Facebook ads, you're not going to catch those people. So having those different strategies really compounds itself.
It does. And let me answer your question directly. So the branded campaign that I do, the campaigns that I do, is more expensive. Okay?
Yes.
They're way more expensive. The branded campaigns are more expensive. But they're also the people that come in through those branded campaigns, they want to do business with us right away. Yeah. Right. It's also the easiest business. Yes. The cheapest business is also the hardest to convert, which is lead generation. So we get the lead coming in. We got ton. My team, like they're like, Dustin is like a fire hose, like stop the lead or turn it down. Can you turn it down? I'm like, good. Those leads, right? And I don't turn down the leads. We just get better at converting them, and I'm hiring an ISA to be able to take on the load, right? Because we have so many leads coming in now, like I bury the team under leads. But that's also the highest amount of effort.
Yes.
Right. And it's the highest amount. It's the cheapest, but it's the highest amount of effort. So I've got 2 different components, and they both fit really well together. But you kind of need both, because if I was just doing the branded stuff, I wouldn't do enough business. At least out of the gate, because I'm still a newer team. Yeah. But if I just relied on the lead gen, then no one would know who I was. Yeah, exactly. So now you got to have both.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talk about in the course, is the time versus money versus energy. And it's gonna cost you one or all of the 3, and you have to decide what you're willing to commit to. It's how much time you want to put in, how much money, and how much energy. Some of them it can be super cheap, but then it's a lot of time and energy, because like you said, you're gonna convert those leads, and it takes a lot of time. Some of it, it's like someone says, I'll drop a crap load of money, and I don't want to have to lift a finger, and the leads just show up, and it's like, I got an appointment booked. Well, it's going to cost you more money, but a lot less of your time. So it really depends on how much of, and then the balance that you want to have in that.
Well, I teach my team this. It's like when you don't have any money, you spend your time.
Yeah.
You don't have any time, you spend your money.
Yeah.
So that's it. Right. And you'll go on a curve. You'll go from one way to the other. You'll start off, if you're a brand new baby realtor, you start off with all the time in the world and absolutely no money. So you spend your time.
Yeah.
Right. You grind out the door knocking, you do the flyers, you hand it out, like you do the social media manually, you do everything yourself. Right.
Yeah.
You spend a ton of time to start converting into the business. And then when you start getting so busy, you're like, oh my God, I'm drowning because I'm losing business because I don't have enough time. That's when you spend money, because that's when you start leveraging, dollars and your ads to start carving your time back, or be able to do more deals in less time, right?
Yep, exactly. So I want to dive in before we wrap up. I want to talk about teams specifically, because I know that's one of the things you're passionate about. So if someone is growing a team from a team leader perspective, what would you recommend for them as far as farming goes for their own team, for the agents on their team? Because I've had different agents talk to me about it where they say, they divvy up and they say, you have this area, you have that area, you have this area. I know some teams will do it where it's like, we're all working the same area. Like, what would you suggest to teams who are as a team leader, if they're running a team and they want to get their team into farming?
Depends on your style. Depends on who you are as a leader. No. It really depends on who you are as a leader and what you've already invested in the past. Yeah. So, for example, if you're a team leader and you're already in farming, it kind of makes sense for you to get your people involved with the farming strategy to build a bigger farm. It's already established. It's already there. Just carve out bigger circles, right? If you're a brand new team leader, I'll tell you why I do it. One of the things that I like to do is I really like to look at each individual's strengths and weaknesses. And everybody is so unique that if you're able to fan the flames of their strengths and support them in their weaknesses, then they can survive, thrive, and just go crazy, right? And I do the same thing with farming. So for each one individually. So if I've got somebody on my team that is that has a cultural advantage, right? I'm a tall, bald, white dude in Canada, right? So there's nothing, like, there's a lot of us out there. So it's nothing really differentiating us or me from, or maybe I say us, from other people. So if you've got an ethnic advantage, then I suggest that you use that. Like I had somebody on my team last year who was in the Spanish niche, and she was putting all kinds of events together, and she ran what's called Fiesta London, and it's just a big deal, right? Yeah. And at the time when she first started with me, she wasn't really spending a lot of time in her niche. She was doing all this stuff because she loved her culture, but the call to action as far as the how it was attached to the real estate side of things, it wasn't strong. And then she started doing, then all of a sudden every single deal she did, it was a Spanish deal, right? And she was deals in the spring center, and she was going from a very sporadic income and sales process to like a very consistent flow of business coming right to her. So everybody's got their own specialties, their own strengths and weaknesses, right? So for me, I like to look at each individual.
I err in the same in that direction, because I think they're either not going to perform as well as they could if you're trying to do like a blanket to everyone where they're saying, okay, so we're all doing the exact same thing. The other thing is then people, because they're not thriving, then they're either going to get out of it, or they're going to be resentful and they're not going to enjoy it. And from leading people, if they're not happy where they're at, they're not going to do good. They're not going to be happy. It's going to be toxic to the team. So creating an environment where everyone has to do the exact same thing, everyone has to do it my way or the highway, in my opinion, doesn't really create a healthy environment for a team. And when people feel that, especially when they're self-employed, when they feel that they're leveraging themselves and providing value, they're going to provide more to the team as a whole.
Yeah, well, from a team leader perspective, you want good attrition, not bad attrition.
Yeah.
Right? Leading your team, you want people promoting themselves and working with you and growing inside your team environment. I call them kings and queens and dictators, and it's not my style. It's not how I like to operate, and it's too easy for individuals to fall through the cracks. It's too easy for people to feel marginalized and or taken advantage of, or unappreciated or unheard. And I really don't like that kind of team environment for myself. So I don't lead that way, and I don't say, okay, I've carved out this neighborhood, so you need to as well, because they might not actually be a really good fit for that demographic. Yeah. Right. like, I'll give you an example. I got a guy joining my team. He's coming from up north, and he's coming from a small town that's full of manufacturing, is full of blue collar workers, right?
Yeah.
Where should I move to? And I said, well, St. Thomas. You should hit St. Thomas. That's just outside of London. It's full of manufacturing. It's full of auto industry and a ton of industry out there. And he speaks to that audience. They jive. They work together. They speak the same language, literally. So I said, you need to go where your people are, because that's who you're going to best serve, and that's who's going to have a great experience with you, right? So no, if I got a shishi realtor that comes on board my team, I'm like, oh, I don't want you to go door knocking in the East End, like in your high heels and jewelry. That's not going to work either, right? So it's really just about leaning into their strengths.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like I said, they're going to enjoy it more. You're going to get more out of them. They're going to stick around longer. And in the end, that's really what matters, is that they're happy and they're staying there. Because if you're blowing through people, it's costing you money and it's costing you time. And just because you're trying to be a dictator and say it's my way or the highway. I've always said, since I started, had I joined a team that was cold calling, this is the way we do it, I'm like, I would have left the business 12 years ago and never survived. Worked on a team when I got started that was we had systems and tools that we used, but then he let me kind of find my own way and figure things out. And that was valuable to me. And that's how I ended up getting into farming, because I was like, I like to figure out what works. And that's kind of what sent me down that path. So yeah, it's important. So if you had to give someone advice, a single agent or a team, any last words of advice that you'd have for farming for any of them?
Yeah, sure. Call me.
Check out the challenge, which is,
you can check out the challenge. It's actually happening. In the
middle of it.
Yeah, we're in the middle of it. Like we're actually launching this episode right now towards the end of the challenge. But you'd actually be able to take it over and over again as many times as you want. I'm creating it in such a way that you can do this on the start of the month. Every month. It's just starting on Monday. So just go to massivemomentumchallenge.com and you can check it out there. It's literally a day-by-day, step-by-step, paint-by numbers on how to gain visibility and authority in your marketplace. It's essentially, and we talk about farming a lot in the event. And Ryan's a guest speaker, so obviously he's bringing a lot of value to the table there for our audience as well. So you'll learn a lot about farming. But essentially, what I'm doing is it's helping you build a business around you, who you are, and how you like to deliver your value. And you can call all of it farming, honestly. Every single bit of it. So that's the first thing. And if you're a team leader and you're interested in building out a team, or you're interested in learning how to farm as a team, and you just want to have a chat, just give me a call. Just give me a call or DM me. Dustin at dustinpritchard.com is my website. You can go to my Facebook. It's Dustin Pritchard Real Estate Team. Pretty easy to get a hold of.
Awesome. And we've got a section that we started was called Your Best Book. So what's one book that made a big impact on you? And what would you want to share with our audience? Selflessly selfish. Go for it.
No, it's not. You know what? I would say that as far as a book, this is probably the most satisfying, because I wrote it. And I built it around 20 years of experience. It's just step one of a multi-step process to really be able to translate, my experiences, what I've learned, and help me help you and help other people in this industry. Because it's really, at the end of the day, once you're already successful and you're making the money you want to make, why do you get out of bed in the morning? And for me, it's just, helping people as much as I can in this industry, because this industry is by far, hands down, the very best job I've ever had. It's the best career I've had. It's the best business I've ever had. Yeah. And it's the best opportunity for anybody. I don't care who you are, demographic, experience level, orientation. It doesn't really matter. You can make this business into whatever you want it to be. You can build an empire. You can build a six-figure income. You can have freedom in your life. You can, if you apply the right steps and the right methodology. So that's, it's the most fulfilling book that I've ever been a part of, because it was just fun to be able to put that together and rock it out in the challenge. As far as the most impactful book is the first book that I ever read. That was a business book. My mom gave it to me, and it's Think and Grow Rich, man. It's Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. and I read that probably once a year, maybe once every 2 years. It's dog-eared and just worn down to pieces, but it is probably one of the most impactful books that I've ever read, and I continue to read it, and I continue to advise people to read it, because all the other self-help books that are out there, they're all based on that.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how many people have been impacted by that book, and people don't even realize it. And then not just that, it's like you said, how many things have spun off from that have helped people, and that it all comes back to that book.
It does. Well, I owe a lot of my success to that book. It's manifest, and what your mind can believe, it can achieve. What you can conceive and believe, you can achieve, right? So it's exactly the same thing. I'm a big believer in manifestation. I'm a big believer in putting the thoughts out into the universe, because the universe will deliver exactly what you're thinking about all the time, right?
Awesome. Well, I believe this is a great episode, and I can visualize that, and I know that we're going to achieve that. So definitely check out the challenge. So we'll put the link to that below so people can check that out. And thank you for being on as a guest. It was really great, and it was great to have a different perspective from the team perspective. So I appreciate that insight. And if anyone wants to check you out, we'll put your information below as well.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. It's such a pleasure, and thank you so much for being a guest speaker on the challenge too.
That was awesome.
Can't wait to share that with our audience.
Awesome. All right, thanks.
Ciao for now.
Thanks for checking out today's episode. If you'd like more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page and our other social media channels. Looking forward to bringing you more great content like this, and happy farming.